Right now, though, let's take a look across the other side of the Atlantic, because it's Labor Day weekend over in the United States of America, which is the official end of summer. They mark it with the bank holiday weekend. Let's talk now to Charles Feldman, co-host at KNX News Radio in Los Angeles. Charles, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
Very good to talk to you. Happy Labor Day to you. Thanks for working on what many people call a day off. It is officially the kind of start of autumn. We're, I think less than 70 days away from the general election of the president and who it's going to be. Some interesting stuff happened over the weekend. I'm going to play you a couple of pieces of footage. Firstly, from the family members of those servicemen who died in Afghanistan when Joe Biden ordered the pulling out of the military. Have a look at this.
Kamala, your statement is nothing more than a political spin to help you look better in your presidential campaign against Donald Trump. You have never walked a single day in our shoes. Our kids were murdered because of your administration.
Vice President Harris, my name is Steve Nakui. I'm the father of Lance Corporal Kareem M. Nakui. And your administration killed my son.
President Trump and his team were respectful. They listened to our stories and didn't talk much at all. We welcomed them that day, and they were comfort to our family. Vice President Harris, I ask you, why won't you return a call and explain to us how you call my daughter-in-law's death a success? Vice President Harris, why will you not express your condolences yourself? Why have we never heard from you?
And all of this as a result, Charles, of Kamala Harris criticising Donald Trump for going to Arlington Cemetery to commemorate those people's deaths. And, I mean, trying to turn it into a political football. Pretty bad move on her part, I think.
Yes, I mean, you know, this was an interesting, and that's one way of putting it, I suppose, development. You know, Arlington Cemetery, for those of your viewers and listeners who might not know, is a very sacred place in the U.S. for those who were killed in various wars that the United States was engaged in over the decades, really. Yeah. And typically, it is a place where photography is not normally done and where people don't come, politicians usually don't come, in order to score political points. And so what this was all about, of course, was that former President Trump, at the invite of, I think it was 8 families, if memory serves me correctly, of those who were killed in the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan, they invited him to go there. Pictures were taken, and some of those pictures were turned into a political ad for Mr. Trump, and that was something that the Harris campaign took exception to, and you know, before you knew it, an entire controversy ensued, which is still, I suppose, going on.
Well, exactly right. But it's just, you know, military people are a particular breed of people, aren't they? And you know, they said they invited Donald Trump. They said they've invited her before and invited Joe Biden before, and they've never got any kind of response. So, you know, I mean, you might be critical of Donald Trump for turning it into a political sort of piece of footage. However, you know, he probably resonates with an awful lot of military families in the country who have seen you know, Kamala Harris here for perhaps what she is.
You know, and also I should point out that throughout the decades, presidents, vice presidents often do go to the cemetery. They often will lay a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier. That is very typically photographed and used, you know, not in political ads would be what they would argue, but to show that the president, whoever happens to be the president at the time, is showing due respect to those who were killed on behalf of the United States. So it all depends, I suppose, on a point of view. What is a political ad? What is a way of demonstrating the sympathies of a particular administration? It's very hard to draw that line very firmly, I think.
Yes, I think you may be right. But there's another clip I want to show you, and this is from the Megyn Kelly show. And this is former servicemen who served with Tim Walz, who, of course, has been in trouble of his own for claiming to have been in combat zones when he never was.
Why did you come forward?
It is morally indefensible. He didn't care. It was all about him.
He's a military impersonator.
I don't understand how he could do it morally, or he's got absolutely no integrity.
The rumor went across the state that he had quit, and it was like, who the hell does that? I mean, it was just unbelievable that a CSM abandoned his troops, 500 soldiers basically, but beyond that, there's 1,000 parents out there that expect that person to lead those people into combat.
He's a habitual liar. He lies about everything. He lies about stuff that doesn't make sense. You're taking a piece of their thunder and you're trying to capture it and put it in a bottle for yourself and use that for your own benefit.
He basically said, I've got better things to do. Go pick somebody else to go on a mission. Well, if you sold out your guard unit and abandoned them, I mean, what are you going to do at the national level?
Fear is a reaction. Bravery is a decision. And Walz has made the wrong decision. He's not brave. I call him a coward because he is.
Pretty strong words about Mr. Waltz there.
Yes, and of course Walz defends his incorrect memory of his own military history, and he hasn't really, in my view anyway, given an explanation that is thoroughly satisfying, except to say that, it depends on one's definition. And, now he says, well, he never was actually in a war zone, but he was carrying a weapon at a time of war. Well, that's true. Whether or not you can extend that into saying that you were at war, there again, it depends on one's point of view. But I tell you, Mike, you led into me by saying, or I think you posed the rhetorical question, where America is on this Labor Day weekend. Right. And I think that where Americans are now is they would really like to know from both sides, the Republicans, the Democrats, from Mr. Trump, from Ms. Harris, where they intend to take America in the future. All of this other stuff about what Mr. Trump did in the past, what Harris did in the past, what Walz did in the past, what J.D. Vance did in the past, is all interesting stuff. And maybe it goes to the character of each of these individuals. But none of it goes to what would these people really bring to America, to Americans, in the years ahead if they get elected or reelected, in the case of Mr. Trump, to the White House. And I think that is where America is at on this Labor Day weekend.
Absolutely right. Charles, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Charles Feldman, co-host at KNX News Radio in Los Angeles.